Hey guys, today I'm going to do a tutorial for the absolute 100% beginner. I'm going to assume that you know absolutely nothing about OpenToonz, and I'm going to try and walk you through the process, the workflow of OpenToonz, how it does things, how it goes about animating. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So there are a number of ways to animate using OpenToonz, and I'm going to go ahead and show you a few of them. But going into this, the one thing that sets OpenToonz apart from a lot of other animation programs, like Anime Studio and Flash, Adobe Flash, or I guess it's called Adobe Animate now, is that it's really essentially a built to be a digital version of traditional animation, the traditional animation process. So it takes that traditional animation process and then just digitizes it. Now it's not completely, you're not completely bound to that process, um, but that is the foundation of this program, and understanding that can really help you to understand where this program differs from other programs is because it is set up that way. Essentially, the way traditional animation works is you have your animator and his assistants, if he's lucky, I guess, and they draw all the individual drawings for the animation. Once they have them all drawn, they take what's called an exposure sheet, which is a sheet of paper with looks essentially like this, like the Xsheet in OpenToonz. It looks exactly like this, and what it is it each little box indicates a frame along a timeline that moves vertically. Um, and in each box, the animator will then write in which drawing shows up in that particular frame. And so that's essentially what the exposure sheet is for, is he's telling the cameraman which drawing should appear at which frame. And then the cameraman will take the collection of drawings and the exposure sheet and put them in the right order and take pictures of them as the exposure sheet directs them to. And then after that, they have their footage. They have all the individual frames of the animation, and they cut them together, and just like any other movie. And that's really the sort of the the foundation of OpenToonz is built on this process where you go in and you do your drawings, and then you put them in the exposure sheet, and that's how you create your animation. Is you do your drawings beforehand, and then you put the drawings into the exposure sheet, letting the program know, okay, at this point in time, I want this drawing to show up. At this point in time, I want this drawing to show up. Now, of course, it's digital, so there's more flexibility and there's more things you can do, and you're not strictly bound to that process. And that's what we're going to go over today. I'm going to show you the basics, just sort of hashing out how this program works, how it expects you to do your animation. And like I said, there's a few ways, and I'm going to show you them. So let's go ahead and get started. So I should say I'm using OpenToonz 1.0.3. If you don't have that, just go get it. It's every version that they come out with is adding uh, new features that are very good. And this one in particular has some very important features. So there's no reason to stay with 1.0.2. Go get 1.0.3, and because that's what I'm using here, and you're going to want to use it. Trust me. Um, so this is what you see the first time you open OpenToonz. Kind of confusing, right? What is all this stuff? Well, let's just start up the top. We have our menu bar, pretty standard stuff, right? But when we come over here, we have all these buttons, and you click these buttons, and the whole screen changes. And there's, some similarities, some similar things, but I mean, what does all this mean, right? Well, what these are is these are called rooms. And essentially what a room is it's a workspace. And each room is just all it is a preset collection of windows. So if we come over here to the Windows tab on the menu, essentially every room is just a different variation of this set number of windows, right? And they each have a different function and a different use while you're doing your animation. And basically, all the rooms is useful collections of these different rooms to get a certain task done. You can change them. You can rearrange these rooms, rename them, add different windows, remove windows. There are some really good tutorials out there on that, so I won't go too in depth into that. All we need to know right now is that these rooms are essentially just workspaces. Don't get too hung up on them because you can literally make your own that has exactly the windows you need. So it's more important to understand what all the different windows do. Now I'm going to go ahead. There are 3 rooms that we're going to be using today that are really going to concern us, and that is drawing, animation, and browser. So because these are modifiable, you can actually move them. So I'm going to move drawing to the front, I'm going to move animation to the front, and I'm going to move browser to the front. Those are the 3 we're going to be using today. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to change a little bit of this setup. Animation is a pretty good room, a good workspace. There's just a few things I want to change. First thing I want to change is we're going to move this bar off here and this bar off here. What this is the toolbar and the toolbar options. We're going to close those out. We're going to go to our windows and we're going to bring in the combo viewer. And essentially the combo viewer is it looks like this, right? You're seeing sort of the same view, but so the combo viewer is nice because it already has the toolbar and the tool options bar built into it. So we go ahead and dock the combo viewer up here. We move this viewer out so that we can close it, and we can adjust it like this. You can adjust from any side. You can adjust all these windows, but as you can see, it has the tool bar built into it, and it has the tool option bar, which is this bar that's empty right now, but if I go to a tool, it'll give me the options for that individual tool. Okay, so we're going to also go to our drawing room, and we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to use the combo viewer because and I guess you don't have to do this, but this is how I like to do things. It just is more convenient for me. All right, looks like this was out to the side, like that. There we go. All right, so now we're kind of back to what it was. All right, now that we have our room set up, let's go ahead and create a new project. Let's go over to our browser folder. Now, what we have here is, this is a browser of your computer, but it also has these folders here which are in your OpenToonz directory, your library, a history, and the project root, which is set up when you first install OpenToonz. And then you also have this sandbox project, and that's what this little icon means, is this is an actual project, and if we open it we see these subfolders within it. And sandbox is the default that comes with it. It's essentially, you know, pretty much what the name suggests. You can just use it for practicing or getting to know the program, stuff like this. But it's basically the default project that OpenToonz comes with and starts you out on. This little red dot to the left of it means that that project is the one you have selected. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually create a new project. And so if we open up our project root directory, we can see all the projects that we have besides the sandbox. So I have this project here which I created for a different animation I'm working on. Let's go ahead and create a new project. So if we click File, come down to New Project, we click New Project, this dialog box will open. And essentially what this is we're just naming the folders and subfolders in our projects directory. And the project is the project folder will be the project name. So if we name this tutorial, it's going to create a folder called tutorial in our project root directory. And then these other folders here are going to be subfolders within the tutorial directory, right? So these will be subdirectories within your tutorial directory. And these will just store various parts of your animation, as well as things you might want to put into the animation. So we're going to leave these as they are. If you don't have 1.0.3, you'll have to fill these in. You can name them whatever you want. I'm just going to leave them like this. And you can click these checkboxes, and what these do is every time you create a new level, new drawings. It'll save them under a subfolder within your drawings subfolder that is the name of the scene you are working on. What that means will make more sense later, but we'll just go ahead and select these and click OK. And as you can see, now we have another project in our project root directory, and the little red dot next to it indicates that it is now the active project. All right, now that we have a project, let's go ahead and create our first scene. Now, a scene essentially can be as big and extensive a portion of animation or as small a portion of animation as you'd like. It can be a single shot, or it can be an entire episode. As far as I know, you can go as long as you want with a scene, but it's going to just get more and more hard to navigate. Because essentially what a scene is its own Xsheet, right? Which is essentially your timeline. And each of these is a frame in time, and time progresses downward. So your first frame, your second frame, your third frame. And if you're doing 24 frames per second, which is standard for most animation, you will have 24 frames per second, and so from here to here will be 1 second. So you can see if you're going to do something like an entire movie in one scene, it will fairly quickly become a huge hassle to navigate. But as far as I know, you could do it. I have not personally reached any limits on the Xsheet as far as how many frames you can actually have in one scene. And so that's what a scene is. A scene is essentially your Xsheet and the associated camera views and everything, and we'll get into that more. But generally what I usually do is I will have, if I have a series of similar shots, I'll have them in one scene, or like for instance, if I have a few different close-ups of a character that are going to show up in different times in an animation, I might do them all in one scene, and then I can just cut them apart with a video editor. But generally, a scene for me is usually a single shot or a single scene, as the name suggests. So what we're going to do is we're going to create our first scene. Let's go to File and New Scene. And let's go to File and let's save our scene. Save Scene As. And it automatically puts us in our tutorial subdirectory and then in our scenes subdirectory. And let's go ahead and give it the name Scene 1. And it's going to create everything we need. Alright, so now as you can see up here, we're working in Scene 1, as well as in our Xsheet, we are working on Scene 1. So in the hierarchy of OpenToonz, the way it manages things, we have our projects, we have our scenes, and then we have levels. And what a level is essentially a collection of drawings. Now the order of the drawings in that is completely irrelevant to the final animation. It's just literally a collection of drawings. And then you take those drawings and you put them onto the Xsheet and tell OpenToonz essentially where you want them to show up, what frame you want them to show up, how long you want them to show up. You can have them show up multiple times for multiple frames. But so beneath the scene is the level. And levels can be used, they aren't necessarily beneath a scene because you can use the same level throughout different scenes. For instance, if you have a level which is the animation of a character walking, a particular character walking, we'll say Bob, his walking animation is level named Bob, walk. And if you wanted to use that level in multiple scenes, you could. You could even use it in different projects. So it's kind of convenient the way that OpenToonz does it is that you are always creating a sort of separate collection of drawings that you could then send anywhere within the same scene, between different scenes, or even between different projects. And that's kind of a convenient way to do it. In most, in the animation programs that I've worked with that are more based off of sort of the illustration style where they have layers, you can't really, I mean, you can duplicate layers, but you have to sort of export them to import them into different places. But that process is already taken care of with OpenToonz because that's how it handles things. It handles things in collections of drawings that you then tell the program when you want to show them to show up in any given scene, in any given project, right? So we could create our new level here, but what we're going to do is we're going to go to our drawing room and we're going to create our new level here. Let's go ahead and create our new level here. Let's just call it level roughs. What we're going to do is we're going to create a rough level, and then we're going to create a clean level where we go over those roughs. And what we're going to do here is we'll do our roughs as a raster layer, that way we can be more free with it, and then we'll do our clean layer as a vector layer and make a nice clean final product. What we have here is it's going to save all this level in our subfolder drawings, which is in our directory tutorial, which is in our project root directory, and it's going to save that then in a subdirectory called scene1. So it's saving it under a folder called scene1, but we could use this level anywhere we want. But this is where it's going to be saved. So for now, let's go ahead and click OK. All right, now for some drawing. What we have over here is our level strip. And as you can see, the level we have open is level roughs, the one we just created. And what this window here is called the level strip, and it is essentially allows us to look at the drawings within our level in the order that they are saved within the level. The order they are in here doesn't necessarily have to be the order that they show up in our final animation. What we're doing here is creating the individual drawings to then put into our animation. We're not doing any real animating per se right now. We're just making the drawings for our animation. So this is sort of like if you think back to the traditional animation techniques, if you've ever seen a video of an animator with a stack of paper on some pegs, and he's like flipping back and forth through them and drawing on them. This is what this room is in OpenToonz. Is the animator just doing the drawings. And so let's take a look at this room. So we have our combo viewer over here, which allows us to see our workspace and all of our tools and our tool options. Over here we have the level palette. And the level palette is linked to our level roughs, right? And essentially what the palette is the colors that we are using in that level. So these are the colors we can select from to draw in our level. And then below it, we have the style editor, which, okay, I should be clear, I was calling these colors, they are called styles in OpenToonz. So we have, by default, a transparent style. This is an alpha style, and you can't change it, you can't do anything with it. And then we have it, by default, we have a black. So if we were to take our brush and scribble around a bit, it would do it in this color. If we were to select our alpha, we would basically be erasing, although there is a separate eraser tool. So I'm going to go ahead and undo all of this. Now, let's say we wanted to change this color. Like, we don't want to use this black. Let's change it to a blue for our roughs. Okay? So we can come down here, we can adjust in any of these fields. We can adjust it here, we can adjust over here as well for saturation and value. And then we can also use these bars here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put us in the red, saturate us all the way, make us real bright, and actually no, let's make a blue. So we can pull this over to the blue here, and we can make it lighter here, or we could adjust it here to make it lighter. So basically you can fiddle around with that and you can pretty much see how these will work. But we haven't changed the color yet. We have to hit apply. So when we hit apply, it'll set our color to blue. And you can have auto apply so that any change you make will automatically show up, as you can see. But I like to leave that off so that I don't accidentally change my colors when I'm not, when I don't want to yet. So let's have that. We'll go ahead and have this blue be our rough. I'm going to go ahead and zoom out a little bit. So, and now if we wanted to create another color to use, let's say we wanted a red, we can right click here, or actually anywhere in here, and do new style. and it's going to duplicate whatever style we had selected. And then we can say, let's make a red. Let's make a nice rich red. Boom. So that's how you create new colors to use in your artwork. All right, well, yeah, let's get started on drawing our drawings for our animation. I'm going to go ahead and do the standard bouncing ball animation. Nice and simple, something that we are all probably familiar with. And let's go ahead and select our blue. I've got my brush selected. That size works for me, and we're going to draw. So right now I have my first drawing selected. I've only got one drawing, and this red box means this one is selected, right? So I'm just going to draw a ball coming into the frame like that. Okay? Now we're going to right click and insert. I have it set to shortcut I. So we go ahead and click insert, and whenever you insert, it's going to insert the new drawing above the one you had selected. And we don't want that right now. We want to have it show up below. Now, the order does not matter here. If I wanted to have the next drawing above this one, so for instance, so the ball's coming down. So here's our first one, here's our next one, right? I could do that. But it's just like the animator who is sitting there with the stack of paper on pegs. It's best to keep them in an order that is similar to the final order you're going to go with. So I'm going to undo that drawing, and we can select both of these using Shift or Control and click reverse, and that'll swap them. And you can do this with more than just two drawings if you want. You can reverse a whole stack of drawings. And so here's the reason why I want to try and maintain an order as close to the final animation as possible. One reason is the onion skin. So if you see this half circle above our selected drawing here, we click it, it's going to automatically put this little dot here. We can click this dot and make it go away, but what this is doing is it's saying, okay, wherever I am, whatever drawing I am on, I'm going to show an onion skin of the previous one. And so this is why the order here is worth consideration, because when you're using the onion skin tool to see the previous drawing, you want to be seeing the actual previous drawing. And then another reason you want to try and maintain an order as close to your final animation order as possible is so that you can flip through them. And I think it's up and down arrows by default. So you can cycle through by going up and down. You can cycle through your drawings, and this allows you to flip the way that a traditional animator would, where he's flipping back and forth between the drawings to see them next to each other in rapid succession. So now that we have this, I'm going to go ahead and draw my next drawing. I have the onion skin on. You can deactivate it by right-clicking and hitting deactivate. Same, you can activate it that same way. And actually, let's go over the onion skins a little bit more. So you can't see it right now, but there is another half circle on the bottom here. If I go up here, you can see it. So there's another half circle here. So now what we've done is we are seeing the next drawing. And we can choose how many drawings ahead of the drawing we're on we want to see by clicking here and dragging. Also, we could just click right about where those circles show up. So now we are seeing the three drawings ahead of the current drawing, skipping the fourth one, and then seeing the fifth and sixth. So wherever we go, it will show us those drawings, as you can see. If you want to clear it out, you just click those little circles again, right? And you can do the same for seeing previous drawings. You can say, I want to see the previous drawing and the drawing before that. You can go ahead and drag this way. Say, I don't want to see the second one before that, but I want to see the third one before that. So you get the picture. You can adjust what you're seeing. Another thing you can do is select certain drawings to always show up. And if you see where this circle is and you go to the left, there another circle shows up, and you can do that on any of your drawings. And so no matter where you go, no matter what drawing you have selected, you can still see the onion skin for that drawing where you have this circle selected. So for instance, if I select this one, I am always seeing the onion skin for that. No matter where I go, I will see the onion skin for this drawing. Alright, so that's the onion skins in a nutshell. Let's go ahead and do our second drawing. So I've got this empty drawing selected, and the onion skin is showing me the one before. I'm seeing the onion skin right here. Let's go ahead and draw the ball coming further into frame. And now I can turn off the onion skin and swipe back and forth in rapid succession and sort of see how my animation might look once I actually put it on my exposure sheet, my Xsheet. And now let's go ahead and add a new drawing in. Insert. And as you can see, it added it above, which is not where I want it. So again, we have to do reverse. And just to save ourselves from having to do that every single time, what I like to do is leave a blank drawing at the bottom so that I can always just click on that one, do insert, and it'll insert right above that one, which is the next drawing I want to do. All right, let's go ahead and turn our onion skin on. We'll do before and after the selected drawing. All right, so let's have the ball come in. Let's have it stretch a little bit. Oops. All right, and let's continue. We'll click this one, insert, and we've got a nice new drawing to work with. And we will continue this process until we have all the drawings we want. Now, for this one, I want sort of the opposite of this drawing, so I'm going to turn this onion skin on so that I can kind of see it and create a nice reflection of it. Turn that off. So that's something you can do, just so you know. Insert, and let's make another nice stretchy one, and continue. Alright, now let's cycle through. I'm going to turn the onion skin off real quick so we can just sort of see. Alright, the ball comes in and bounces. Boink. Now, I don't like how big this particular drawing is because of course I'm not trying to be perfect with this, but just to show you for an example, I don't like how big that is. How can I adjust this? Of course I could erase it and redraw it, or I could take the select tool, and the select tool is used for editing drawings within your level, and it is essentially a marquee. So I have it set to freehand, so I'm going to select it like this. I'm going to right click and turn on my onion skin so I can still have a sense of where I'm at. And let's shrink it up a bit. You can use the handles just like you are probably used to with other programs. You can do rotation as well. And click outside of it and it's done and changed. Alright, that looks pretty good. I'm going to turn off the onion skin again. Just make sure I like this all. That looks good. Okay, now I have a set of drawings. Now let's go ahead and put them into our animation. Let's make them into an animation, because right now all we have is a selection of drawings, right? Alright, now that we have our individual drawings, we can go to our animation window and expose them in our Xsheet. Now, as you can see, it's created a new column for us with the first drawing of our level roughs, exposed on the first frame. Now, let's just take a look at this room's setup real quick. So we have our combo viewer, which we're relatively used to. We have our exposure sheet, which we're about to get real used to. And we have over here the level strip, which we also had in our drawing room. It's the same window, the level strip. And this allows us to look at our drawings, and we can go ahead and drag them in anywhere we want. We can create a whole nother column, and even once we are in that column, we can drag the drawing around wherever we like. So I'm going to go ahead and actually select it and delete it. And let's go ahead and look back at our level strip. And so we have our first drawing exposed on the first frame in column 1. Let's go ahead and take our other drawings, and I'm going to click the first one, hold shift, click the last one, that selects them all. And we have a few options. We can right click and do expose an Xsheet, and what that is going to do is expose them in a new column here. Let's go ahead and undo that, because what we actually want to do is have them show up right here below the first drawing in column 1. So I'm just going to click and hold on the first that I had selected, and as you can see, I'm now being allowed to place them where I would like. I could do them in a new column. I'm going to go ahead and do them in the same column. And over here you can see that these numbers are blue and these numbers are white. And what that essentially means is the blue numbers are in the current play cycle. So these little triangles here are the start and stop marker, and that essentially says I want my animation to start here and end here. And the blue numbers also indicate the same thing. Anytime a number falls within these two markers, it is blue or turquoise, and that means that will be the extent of the animation when you hit play or when you hit loop. So if we hit play, we'll see, actually got to select in here. If we hit play, we'll see the animation plays and then we have emptiness. And once it gets to the bottom, it goes back to the top and stops. If we hit loop, it'll just play through over and over and over again. Now, this bracket is simply, these start and stop markers are simply for your use when observing what's going on in your combo viewer. These aren't necessarily the final animation. So if, you're working on an animation and you just want to see a certain part looped over and over and over again, you can just select that, right? This is not the actual final output rendered animation. That's something you set elsewhere. These are just for your convenience while you are working with your Xsheet. All right, now that we got that out of the way, as you can see, there's also an onion skin here. It works the same way as in the level strip. I'm going to go ahead and just turn it off. Once again, you can right click and hit deactivate. And let's go ahead and loop this animation and see what we see. Pretty nice. Now, if you wanted to have each drawing last 2 frames, I think the term is it's animated in twos, then we can select them all. You can do that either by clicking the top one, holding shift, and clicking the bottom one, or you can simply click and drag, and you can select them all. Then you right click, hit reframe, frame on twos. Now, as you can see, the amount that will be played will just be frame 1 through frame 9. We can go ahead and extend this. We can either click and drag it, or we can right click where we want it to be, and we can set the stop marker. That's where it'll end. Now let's hit the loop and see what we see. Looks pretty good. All right, so now let's say we wanted to change one of these drawings. Let's say we can actually click, if we click on the numbers, we can click and drag and scrub through. Let's just scrub through right here, like, oh, I still don't quite like this one. So let's go ahead and select it. And we can still edit the drawing itself by using the select tool. We can also add to the drawing, like if I wanted to add a some little splat lines. Those have just been added to this drawing, drawing number 5 of level roughs. So as we can see right here, that drawing has been changed. So you can actually draw from the Xsheet like this. And in fact, if we said, I want to add a new drawing right here after this one, let's turn the onion skin on. I want to add another drawing right here. We can select that frame and we can draw in it, right? And it creates a new one, number 11. And the reason it's number 11 and not 10, you see this one says 9, this one says 11, is because of the blank one we had buffering right here. So it's created a new frame for us automatically right here. And if we wanted to, because we have the blank one here still, that's our number 10, we can go ahead and reverse these. But then what happens is this is still set to number 11, which is, as we can see, it's a blank one. So we can change this by making it 10 instead. And then there we have it. And if we want, we can extend it so that it's on 2s like the rest of the images. And let's go ahead and loop this and see our animation. All right? So say now, for some reason, we wanted to add a frame between this one and this one. We could go ahead and highlight these two, and if you click over on the left here where you see this sort of like bar, you can drag your frames, your drawings rather. And we can go here and let's turn on the onion skin real quick. And let's say we wanted to add, just add another circle right here. Now it doesn't make much sense. I guess we're having it slow down. Here's what we'll do. Let's have that onion skin ahead 2. Since we're framing in 2s, we'll have it onion skin ahead 2 and back 2. That way we can really see which one is what's ahead and what's behind. And so I'm going to go ahead and take my select tool, and once again the select tool edits the drawing, and I'm just going to move this right here. So I guess we're having the ball slow down up here a bit. Turn off the onion skin, and we're having it kind of slow down. Don't forget to extend that. So it slows down. Let's see it looped. And so it really slows down at the top there. Alright, so essentially what I've shown you is how to animate the way that is the foundation of this program. You draw the drawings out, and then you go to your exposure sheet and you put the drawings in the exposure sheet. And I've also showed you how you can insert drawings into the exposure sheet, do new drawings, and now what I'm going to show you is how you can do this whole process without going to your drawing room. You can do that whole process in here, and we'll do that with the cleans that we're going to create for these roughs. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new level. We'll select this column, and let's create a new level. This time we're going to create a vector level, and let's call it level cleans. Once again, it is saving in the scene 1 folder, subdirectory rather, and there's no size options because it's a vector drawing. It has no size. It's completely scalable. And so we're going to click OK. And now we've got a new column, and it has a new level, and the new level is completely empty. We've just got our one blank drawing. And so what we're going to do this time is we're going to draw from the Xsheet, looking into the combo viewer and looking through the camera lens essentially here. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go on each frame where we want to draw a clean drawing and just draw it. So let's start with the first frame. Now we are using vectors, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to extend my tools here, and let's just use the circle tool. So I'm going to go to my geometry tool, set the shape to circle, and make a circle here. And now we can go ahead and, since we're drawing from here instead of our drawing room, we might want to go ahead and add our style or our I'm sorry, our palette. Here's our palette. So this level has the two default styles that you start with, an alpha, transparent alpha, and a black. So we'll just go ahead and use the black. So as you can see, the columns are sort of layered on top of one another, and the ones on the right fall above the columns on the left. So this is below this column. So we made a new drawing, and we're going to go ahead and extend it so that it shows up for 2 frames. An important thing to note when drawing from the Xsheet is that if you aren't either drawing on a predetermined drawing or on the X at the bottom, you see there's an X at the bottom of both of these sets of frames. If you're not drawing on this X, you're going to be creating a new level, right? So what I've done essentially here is I have, if you look here, I have level cleans. This is my level cleans. And this new drawing I did is a level that it automatically created called level A. So anytime you just go into a blank frame and draw, it's going to create a new level. So we don't need a bunch of levels for this. We can do this all with the same level. So we're going to do our new drawings on the X at the bottom of a selection of frames to add a new frame, a new drawing rather, to that given level, right? So if I was to draw here, it would add a new drawing to level roughs. If I was to draw here, it would add a new drawing to level cleans. And this is exactly where we want to be. So we're going to create a new drawing. All right, let's extend it to and create a drawing here. And I'm going to create a circle, and then I'm going to take my select tool. And the select tool works a little differently in vectors. It's no longer, it can be a marquee, but these are the shapes that you create in a vector are their own actual objects. So I can just click on it, and then I have access to it to manipulate. I don't have to select the whole thing. Now, I can manipulate it like this, and let's say I can just do this, rotate it a little bit, and then there we have it, right? Or if I undo this, another option we have is the control point edit tool, which is this tool right here. Oh, I'm sorry, not that tool. It is this tool right here, control point edit tool. And once again, we select the object we want to manipulate, and because these are vectors, we have control points. Now what I'm going to do is manipulate these handles till I have the right shape. So I'm going to put my control points. I can click on a control point to move that control point, and then I can click on these little handles to manipulate how the line goes through that control point. And I'm just going to manipulate it this way. So this is just to show you a few different options you have for manipulating vectors. Alright, that looks good enough to me. Let's extend it. And now we can do this drawing. And let's create our circle. And then once again, we'll use the control point edit tool, and we can just sort of maneuver everything into position. That works. Let's extend it. And the reason I'm extending these right now instead of just waiting till the end is because I want to draw on this level, so I need to be drawing on this this X, like I discussed before. And because we want our next frame to be here at 5 and there's no X here, it would be creating a new level. Another option we have is if we select the level, the column with the level that we want to add to, once again, we could go in here and insert a new one. We can reverse these so that other one is on the bottom. Reverse, right? And then we could take this blank one and put it right here so that we're drawing in the right level. But it seems to me like it's just easier to go like this. Move this back, right? But that also goes to show you that the same way we were drawing in the drawing room by inserting new drawings into the level strip, you can do that here as well. This level strip functions exactly the same. The only difference between this view, besides these two windows down here, which we'll talk about, and the lack of a style editor, is the Xsheet. And so that's why right now I'm showing you how you can draw from the Xsheet as opposed to just drawing from the level strip. So essentially in this view, you can do everything that you were doing in this room. Once again, the rooms are just a small, or just a predetermined set of windows sorted in a certain way. But as long as you have the level strip here and you have access to your palette, and you can open up your palette, sorry, not your studio palette, you can open up your palette editor, style editor rather, and you could dock it here, for instance, and then here we have, between these two windows and the level strip, we have everything we have in the drawing room. So that just goes to show you that it's really kind of, the rooms are as arbitrary as you want them to be, essentially. So let's go ahead and just continue with these cleans. Alright, so let's go ahead and get our control points to position. Alright, so it's rough, but it'll do. And now we're going to draw in with a brush, we're going to draw our little explosion marks. And see, for the thickness of my brush, I have it set to a constant thickness. So in order to make the tops of these smaller, we can use our pump tool. And we can, let's set the size down. And we can just sort of make the tips tiny. And I feel like a lot of the tools and things like that have been explained pretty well in other videos, so I'm not going to focus on them too much. But I'm more so focused on showing you how the animation process works with OpenToonz. Alright, now let's zoom out. And if we loop it, we see both the rough and the clean. Now let's go ahead and we can make it so that we aren't seeing our rough, seeing this column, which is has our rough levels on it, by clicking this button right here. So that makes it so we can't see it right now. But this eyeball here means that when we do render the final animation, it will show up. So we'll go ahead and turn that off too. And in fact, we could probably just delete this column, but I'll leave it there for now. So now let's see the loop with just our cleans. Boink, boink. All right. So now I'm going to show you another way to animate, and that is by simply manipulating the column itself, not the drawings. I'm going to remove this column, okay, and let's create a new level. I'm going to create a new level called level ball, okay, and it's going to be a vector layer, level rather. All right, and that's where I was selected, so that's where it left it. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and draw a ball with our geometry tool. Let's just make a ball like this. All right, so with this form of animation, what we're going to do is animate the column. Rather than using separate drawings to create an animation, we're going to just move the column around in the camera space. And so what we're going to do is we're actually going to take this individual drawing and have that drawing show up throughout the entirety of these 22 frames. And now we're going to click our first frame, frame 1, and we're going to click the Edit tool. And what the Edit tool does is it edits the column. It has nothing to do with the drawing and everything to do with the column. All we're doing is editing the column. And so if we select the Edit tool and we select Position, we can now place where we want that column to appear at frame 1. And you can see that a little key has shown up here, and what that means is it's created a keyframe specifically for the position of column 3. So at frame 1, we're going to have column 3 be right here. Now, if we go down to the last frame, frame 22, and now we move the column over to the other side, what we've just done is created another keyframe that says at frame 22, the ball must be here. And what OpenToonz has then done is automatically created the animation of the column moving from position A to position B. So if we scrub through, we see the column actually moves from left to right. It automatically calculates it. And it's really important to note that this has not edited the drawing at all. We're not editing the drawing at all. As you can see, the drawing is still just the circle right in the center of the frame. But we've taken the column itself and we've moved the column. So now if we go to, say, frame 12 and we move the column down to right here, we now have the ball swinging like a pendulum almost. So we've got a general motion. If we go to 7 and we move it up this way, and again we go to 17 and we move it up this way, we get more of a bouncing motion, right? It kind of arcs down. Alright, so if we loop this, the ball comes in, hits the ground, and bounces back up. Now you'll notice that we're missing some squash and stretch. It looks a little stiff, but we'll take care of that in a second. What I want to show you now is how we can look at the very specific values of these individual keyframes, which we can manipulate their positions here, right? We can click them, move them, we can even copy and paste them. Or we can go into our function editor. And what this is going to show us is if we select column 3, you see how the folder is yellow? Now we are seeing its values. And what we're seeing here is its east, west, north, south values, so that's the position that we've edited. And then there's a whole slew of other values. And at each point where the letters are orange like this, there is a keyframe. So these orange boxes are essentially the keyframes we have set here. And if we manipulate these values, like for instance, let's say we wanted this to be up a little more, like at 100, we could just adjust that, hit enter, and now the ball, as you can see if I undo it, goes to a position of -100 rather than 130. And you'll also notice that the values in between the key frames automatically change. And that's what a keyframe is. The keyframe is what you set, and then what happens in between is what OpenToonz does automatically. Now you can have OpenToonz calculate this differently by selecting within a given two key points. You see how it automatically selects all of these frames. We can come over here and adjust its interpolation. So speed in, speed out is what it's set to right now. But if we wanted to have it set to linear, we could select linear, click apply, and it will move in a much, the speed is constant now. I'm going to undo that because it actually looks kind of good with the speed in, speed out. Alright, now what I'm going to do is we're going to have the ball squash once it hits the bottom. So let's move to where it's at the bottom, and let's select our edit tool. We're going to select scale, and we're going to do maintain mass. And what this does is if I hold control, I can edit it on the horizontal and the vertical axis. And as you can see, it maintains the actual volume of the original object, which is really nice for keeping the size of your object constant for squash and stretch. Alright, so now you'll notice it's flat the whole time. And that's because if you look here, we created a keyframe here, but there's no other keyframes, so it's just assuming that that's how it's always going to be. Now if we go to frame 1, we can select it in here. These are the same frames as you see listed here. If we select one, and I'm going to hold control and scale it back to a circle, then we will see that it squashes right there. And if we go to the end, again, we can either shape it back to a circle manually, or we can come in here and select these values, Control C to copy them, click down here, Control V, and it will automatically paste in the new keyframe rather, and then do the interpolation for us. So there you have it. It smushes at the bottom. Now the problem now is that it begins smushing immediately. So in order to fix that, what we can do is we can just copy these this value again, and we'll paste it right about here. So as you can see right now, it stays at this value until it reaches this point where it begins its squash, and then it will grow back out. So again, we can paste that value here, and then it will remain constant. So now we have more of an accurate bounce when it hits the ground. Let's see it looped. Alright. So that is another way of animating using OpenToonz, is using the automatic interpolation, the manipulation of columns using the edit tool, and using keyframes, and then also using the function editor to adjust any given value. So that's one way of doing it, and with some adjustment this could be a pretty decent animation. But now let's check out using paths. So I'm going to go ahead and take our drawing from level ball and make a new column out of it. And we're going to extend the column down to 22. We're going to get rid of this column. We don't need to see it anymore. And we're going to use a path. So instead of setting the individual points where the ball will travel as keyframes, we're going to create a path that the ball will follow. And the way we do that is in the stage schematic. Now what the stage schematic is showing us is the table, which is what we're drawing on, and the camera, which is what we're seeing through, as well as all the different columns. Now we can fit it to the screen by clicking this button. And so we have column 1, 2, 3, 4. We're working with column 4 now, so let's select column 4 and let's hit this button here, which is a path, add a path. And the path automatically connects to the node for column 4. Now all we need to do is draw the path. So we're going to select the path, we're going to select our brush, and we're going to go ahead and draw sort of a bounce. Are you sure you want to replace the motion path? We'll go ahead and click yes. And you'll see that the column 4 automatically attaches to this path, which happens because these two nodes are attached. And it attaches wherever the center of the column was at the time of creating the path. And that's the center of the ball, which works for our purposes right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to select the column. We can select it here, or we can select it up here. We're going to go to frame 1. So we're going to set a keyframe right here. So we're going to take our edit tool, set it to position, and put the ball in position right here. Next, we're going to go to frame 22, and we're going to position the ball at the end of the path. And as you can see, it moves along the path when we try and move it from side to side. It automatically moves along the path. So we set it here at frame 22, and it creates the two keyframes and then interpolates. So now if we scrub through, we see that it follows the path. And we can play it. So that was a much quicker way of creating that same motion. And you have control over the path. So for instance, if I click path here, and I click the control point edit tool, which was this guy, and select the path, I can now see the control points of the path, and I can manipulate them as I see fit, which can be edited just like control points of a vector shape. For now though, let's go ahead and make our ball squash and stretch. For the squash and stretch, we're going to go ahead and have the ball sort of stretch out as it's going down right here. So let's use the edit tool and use scale, and let's squash it down so it's stretched out like that. So right here we want it to stretch, but as you can see, because we only have, if we extend our function editor and we get rid of column 3 and select column 4, you can see here's the keyframe for the scale that we just created. Because there's only the one keyframe, it just accepts that as constant. So before we change that, obviously the big problem right here is that it's stretching sideways. We want it to stretch lengthwise as if it's stretching towards the ground. So what we're going to do is over here, there are a few buttons underneath our column, right? And what these buttons do is determine whether the column follows the path as far as its rotation as well. And what we're going to do is hit this little square so that it's a diamond, and what that does is it makes it so that it follows the path as far as its rotation as well. So now we can go ahead and take our scale tool and bring this back to a circle right here. Okay, so we have it at a circle at the beginning, and then it stretches out. And then once again, because there's no keyframe after this, it just maintains this value throughout the entirety thereafter. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy this value, because that looks like a nice circle. So we're going to select these two values, Control C, and we're going to paste them. Let's paste one right here, and one right here, because we don't want it to be stretching quite yet. So we'll set one right here. So because these two values are the same, the interpolation stays the same as well. So if we scrub through, we can see that the stretch comes more. I might actually bring this down. You can highlight them and pull them around just the same way you edit drawings in the Xsheet as well. So now we have it stretch just a little bit as it's coming down, and then becomes a circle again. And then right here, let's have it squish down. And then immediately after, we'll have it, not quite immediately after, and then we'll copy this value and we'll put it right here. And we will also take the stretch value from over here, copy it, paste it right here, and then take our circle value and paste it right here, and then it will stay a circle. So it's a little rough, but you get this, you get the idea of how to use a path, and then how to use the edit tool to create keyframes, and then how to use the function editor to really get into detail with your keyframes. So let's loop it. It's a little rough. Around here, you would maybe want to do some rotation adjustments, which you could easily do with the edit tool and the rotation settings. Just remember to set keyframes. Like right here, let's go ahead and just click so that we get a keyframe. Okay, and then when we get to here, we want the ball to be like this. Let's set this to 0. Okay, so we have no rotation, meaning that it's just following the path exactly, and then it rotates to right there, and then we can put 0 in right here again. And it might look a little better. Yeah, that looks a lot better. Alright, so there you have 4 different ways of animating in OpenToonz. This was in no way an exhaustive list of the functions and abilities of this program. There's so much that you can do with this program. There are a lot of really great videos out there by the community. This I just really wanted to show from a very basic standpoint the process of creating animation at the most basic level in this program, because it doesn't work quite the same way as other animation programs, so it can be kind of confusing and kind of intimidating. But I really just wanted to show the sort of basic relationships between columns and level strips and levels and the edit tool and the Xsheet and things like this. So hopefully this was helpful to some of you out there. I know a lot of people have been asking questions, and I've been promising to get this out for a while. I just really hope that it helped some people sort of understand how this program works, because that was really the biggest hurdle, is just sort of, for me personally, was understanding the sort of fundamental process of this program and how it does animation. All 4 of these methods are not exclusive. In fact, they probably should all be used together in tandem, but I wanted to show them separately so that you could really see how they relate to each other, and what is good for where, and what is good to use at what times, and that sort of thing. So yeah, I hope this has been helpful. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Let me know what other videos you guys would want. And yeah, that's it.